Okay. That's him right there. Okay, Terry.
Yep.
We're gonna come in and have a sit down right here. We're already live. What that does.
Okay, let me put this down.
Okay. The video is live. All right.
Here?
Yep. Have a sit next to me, and then when Delano comes in, he'll sit over there and we'll get started.
Okay.
All right, I'm ready, boss. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black. Wow. Hey, I got to give a shout out to my kinfolk, my skin folk, my love folk down in Mississippi. I had to make a quick trip this past weekend to see about some family. We lost an aunt this past week, and I want to give a shout out to all the love from the Derrick family. Thank you for looking out for me and the aunties. You know, the aunties were happy to be with family in a way. You know, if you have to value your elders. You need to be listening to them. You need to make sure that you take care of them, and whatever they need, you got to make sure you do. So we're coming to you live, Turn Left, from RadioNext.tv. Please visit our website. Make sure you sign up to be a sponsor. Do your advertising with us, because it's all community all the time. If you don't remember, it's all about how do we improve the world that we live in. We are right here at 10th and Jefferson, the Officeplex. This little place is coming alive. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but there's a coffee shop down the way. There's an art gallery down the way, and we're across the street from the Bonner Center. Come on down, visit. Hey, this is Zach Adams from Zaderhood, so I'm just saying. This is Zach's spot. Y'all should come down, check it out. I posted right before the show came on about an art exhibit that's going on right down the street in the same strip mall that we're in. Just come down and support some of your local artists. It doesn't hurt anything, it doesn't cost you anything. It's just a matter of getting connected with people, right? Because each one teach one, each one reach one, and if we can help local artists become better at what they do and get exposure, let's do that. All right, you know I got some rants. I know you see the man sitting next to me. We're gonna definitely rap with the prosecutor. He brought notes. So you know we got a lot of conversation we're gonna have today, and it's necessary. It is absolutely necessary. First of all, please make sure you tune in on October 13th when HB and I will broadcast live from the Latino Expo from 1 to 4. All communities, not just one, all communities. The Latino Expo, my girl, Vanessa Lopez Aguilera, who is, first of all, she's a superhero. She's a mom, she's a wife, she's an attorney, she has a law firm, she's the CIO, CEO, the boss lady for the Latino Expo, and she's helping her husband with a statewide campaign. Tell me that ain't a superwoman. So anything we can do to support Miss Vanessa and her efforts in the Latino community, we need to do that. So we're going to be live October 13th from 1 to 4, interviewing people, finding out what's going on at the expo, to share some information, and then maybe you'll want to get excited and come on down to the fairgrounds and visit it for yourself. But that's what we are doing. So just 3 rants today. I promise I'm going to keep them short. First of all, the Senate in Washington passed a bill to deal with the opioid crisis, and I'm mad at them for being proud of this particular bill that they passed. They're putting some money and some efforts into dealing with this health crisis. However, I would not be Dana Black if I just didn't mention that mass incarceration happened because of the war on drugs. And when my community was strung out and we were addicted to crack in the 80s, we were locking people up. And I just hope at some point some of these lawmakers who are dealing with this opioid crisis, which is mostly our suburban white community and our rural white community, go take a look back at some people who are caught up in this mass incarceration situation that we have for the exact same thing. For the exact same thing. So it's amazing how, you know, it ain't but 2-3, it's only been 2-3 decades. It ain't like it's been that long. One issue was a criminal issue. The other issue is now a healthcare issue. I need everybody to be getting some fair treatment around here. And I'm very happy that we are dealing with the opioid crisis much differently than we did the crack, because we would hate to see, Carmel gutted out because stay-at-home moms were stuck to strung out on opioids, right? Because we know that would never happen. Exactly. So let's just deal with this. It hurts my heart to see how many people who were addicted to cocaine in the rock form in the 80s, whose lives were ruined. Now we're doing things differently, and we see that the opioid crisis is different. We just got to do better, y'all. And I just got to put that out there. It hurts my heart. Because nobody wants to address it. Nobody wants to talk about how our communities were gutted because of this crack epidemic, which we know the CIA helped drop that stuff off. So don't act like y'all don't know. Y'all read the article in the San Jose Times. Come on. Everybody read it. We know about all the folks and how the stuff came in here. So not only did our government help us get strung out, they locked us up after we got strung out. So we got to do better. We got to do better. All right. I know y'all mad about Judge K and the vote. Y'all knew it was going to happen. Y'all knew that he was going to get confirmed. Y'all knew it hasn't been confirmed yet, but he got out of committee, so it's going to go to full vote. But y'all knew it was going to happen. You know how you knew it was going to happen? Because you didn't show up in November of 2016. You didn't show up. Y'all was mad because Hillary wasn't perfect. Y'all was mad because she had baggage. Y'all was mad because she had emails. They wanted to make it seem like she was the one solely responsible for Benghazi. Whatever. But this is what we got now. Because we didn't show up, we allowed the pettiness to get in front of what was really necessary for our nation. Now you got 45, and he's making his Supreme Court picks. And so guess what? Kavanaugh, who, you know what? I'm sorry. He probably did do what Dr. Ford said he did. Dude, 95% of sexual perpetrators are dudes anyway. So I'm gonna chalk it up. If somebody accused me, probably did it. I've been accused. I've been falsely accused. I talked about it the other day, but I believe he did it. So this is what we got. Now, what we need to do. You're mad now. You're upset. You're doing your women's rallies. You're making sure that people are protesting Kavanaugh. Check it out. I need you to take yourself and all your friends to the polls in November. You don't like what's happening. You don't like what's going on. You don't like that Kavanaugh is now going to be having a lifetime appointment. Now, mind you, he's already going to attack women's rights. We already knew that. We know that he is for expanding, the president's, reach so that they pretty much let him do what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it. You already know that. So we got to show up. I know Auntie Maxine has a plan if she wins. She has a plan if we flip some seats. She already talked about subpoena and stuff. So we got to show up. We got to flip some seats. We got great candidates right here in Indiana who are running for Congress. Vote for Senator Donnelly. I don't care what y'all say. He is a whole lot better than Mike Braun any day of the week. And if you act like he's not, then you're missing the point here. This is how we got 45. This is the same conversation. You not feeling because he votes 75% Democrat way or 65%. No, you mess around and get Braun, you're gonna be stuck. That's all I'm telling you. You're gonna be stuck like Chuck. That's it. All right, one last thing, and then I'm gonna introduce my guest because he's got a lot of good stuff, and I want to make sure that we give him the ample time he needs. Mike McClellan, I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt with your sit lie. I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt, but then you wrote in IBJ how you really felt about it. You actually articulated to everyone why you were creating the sit lie bill, the sit lie ordinance. You created the sit lie ordinance because people are here on vacation who are taking pictures on Monument Circle, or your business owner friends who have shops downtown, or just the random employed person going to purchase a $7 sandwich and a $5 cup of coffee doesn't want to see homeless people or somebody asking them for money. They don't want to see it anymore. Well, see, if you don't want to see homelessness and you don't want to see people begging, then why don't we address why our wages in Indiana are stagnant? Why don't we address why the cost of living in Indiana is continuing to grow? Why don't we address the real issues that contribute to homelessness, like mental health concerns? Why don't we address those issues instead of just saying, I'm tired of looking at you, I'm going to scoot you to the side? So you can't get any plainer to me. You wrote it down, dog. I'm not even assuming what you mean anymore. I don't even have to assume it. I know it because I read your words. Your words were, think about it. What if you were walking to go get a sandwich and a cup of coffee? Are you serious? Have you experience at losing everything? Do you even know what it's like to be struggling? Do you know what it's like to be hungry? Do you know what it's like to have to go without? That you would somehow or another criminalize and make it horrible for people who are just trying to survive on these streets? So my question is, even if you pass the ordinance, what is the punishment going to be? Are you going to fine people? You can't fine them, they ain't got no money. You think they're going to show up to court? What are you going to do, lock them up? Oh, well, then next thing you know, the taxpayers are now paying to house these folks who are homeless. So either way it go, guess what? Taxpayers are going to be paying for it. So instead of trying to criminalize homelessness or just the inhumanity of suggesting that you are tired of looking at people who are struggling, shame on you. I can't believe you are my representative. He is my councilman. You represent my community, the neighborhood I live in. That is terrible. And shame on you. Terrible. Looks like we got to fight in 2019 because I'm not going to let that slide. The fact that you even came up with some old nonsense like that. Looks like we got to fight in 19 because you up in 19. You'll be on the ballot in 19. I know some people that ain't afraid to run. I know some people. Indiana's own Dana Black. Turn left. I want to make sure that I give my guests a great opportunity to talk. First of all, for Terry Curry reached out to me. And he said, Dana, I want to come on your show and I want to talk about these programs and these things that I've got going on. And mind you, he did that way in the spring. He approached me way in the springtime. And I said, you know what, since you're on the ballot, why don't we schedule you closer to election time so you can have these conversations when people are thinking about who they need to vote for, because guess what? The prosecutor's on the ballot. The prosecutor's on the ballot this year. And you know what? We've had a rough year this year. And I think that it's admirable that he wants to come on our show and knowing how fiery I can be, right? I can get pretty fired up. He wants to come on our show and talk about what they're doing in the prosecutor's office and some great strides. Y'all welcome to Marion County Prosecutor Terry Curry. Sir, thank you so very much for gracing our airwaves.
Dana, happy to do it. We're prepared to lean left here tonight.
We're going to turn left, baby. We ain't going to lean. We're going to make a turn all the way.
I've been turning left my entire adult life.
I love it. So, Terry, before we get started on the meat and potatoes of our conversation today, tell people where you from, where you came from. Because one of the things I like is I want you to be real. I don't want you to be that guy out there.
Right.
Tell them who you are.
In a nutshell, my parents are both originally from Ellettsville, Indiana, which is right outside Bloomington. My dad, after he got out of the Navy in World War II, went to IU on the GI Bill and was an educator his entire life. So as he moved up from basketball coach and teacher to principal to superintendent of schools, we moved around a fair amount, all around kind of the, not really southern Indiana, but certainly south of Indianapolis. Ultimately, my dad was superintendent of schools in Mooresville for 20 years.
Wow.
I went to Butler undergrad, and at the time of finishing my fourth year there, there was still the draft, and I knew I was going to get drafted that year, so actually I just went ahead and enlisted for 2 years.
Did you?
And served 2 years in the Army, came back to Indy. At the time, actually, that I had my last year at Butler, I'd worked at the old Indianapolis News, now defunct Indianapolis News.
Yes, I remember that. But
And,
we actually received the News versus the Star.
Yeah, that was a good call. It'd be a really good call today.
Yeah, I missed that one. Thank you, boss.
And so when I came back, I worked at them since my last year at Butler, and when I got back out of the Army, I worked there a couple more years before I went to law school as a reporter, and then went to law school in '75. Graduated in '78. Went to here in Indy, IU
Okay.
Law, and haven't been able to hold a job since. I view it as new challenges. I've worked in a traditional firm, had a solo practice. I was a deputy prosecutor in the Marion County office on 2 separate occasions. And in 2009, a number of people approached me, asked me if I'd think about running for prosecutor, and I said, nah, I don't really think I want to do that. And they kept asking, and so I said yes, and now I can't imagine I would have done it. So I obviously took off in 2011, and will be running for a 3rd term this year.
Right. Wow, that is a long history. Well, I'm glad that you're a Hoosier native. That just warms my heart. You know, we have, excuse me, we do have some Hoosier natives that come on the show, but it's nice to know someone who lives in Indianapolis and is looking out for our community from a justice point of view as a Hoosier native. So, talk about what, after you had done the stint as a deputy prosecutor in the past, what was the thing that made you say, okay, yeah, all right, I'll run for prosecutor?
Well, I mean, my only hesitation was that, you know, I'd been a trial attorney my entire life, and at some point, you know, after 35, 40 years being a trial attorney, it takes its toll, and you don't necessarily want to continue to do that. On the other hand, I worked at the office, and that was the happiest I ever was in the practice of law, just doing the work there, because it's gratifying, and people do that work because they have a passion for it. No one's going to get rich working at the prosecutor's office. No. And I guess the other consideration, not to kick around my predecessor, but clearly the office had taken a real beating in terms of the public's confidence and trust in the office, and so, you know, we felt that was a challenge, and so that's those considerations were what prompted us.
Okay. So you mentioned, you know, the public's trust and the public's confidence. It's been a rough year, right? It's been a rough year with the Aaron Bailey situation. Now I'm gonna be real. This Aaron Bailey wasn't the first time we had to deal with this in Indianapolis. You know, I remember being 17 years old and having to have the conversation about what happened to Michael Taylor. Right? Most people don't remember that. I remember that because it was very vivid. There were a lot of decisions that came from your office about how to handle that case, because it was very sensitive. First of all, I spoke to Chief Roach personally and said I thought the way that our law enforcement had handled it was the right way. It wasn't like Ferguson where they were trying to hide stuff. They were upfront. We may not have liked all the decisions, but at least I felt like the chief of police and the mayor of the city were upfront about what they were trying to do. I know you don't want to relive that again, but just for the listeners, talk about what some of that process was like for you, especially since we ended up turning that over to a special prosecutor.
Yeah, and I was really conflicted about doing that, because I think it's our responsibility as the Marion County prosecutor to take on any of those cases. And I'm going to come back to the idea of holding police officers accountable. In the Aaron Bailey matter, there was a lot of discussion within our office as the appropriate course of action. Ultimately, for me, what made me decide that we should seek a special prosecutor was the fact that we had the Jason Brown case pending exactly at the same time. So Jason Brown had been charged with the murder of Lieutenant Aaron Allen, who was a Southport police officer, and so we felt that this created the appearance of a conflict where on the one hand we're prosecuting the death of a police officer, while on the other hand, so that was the ultimate consideration that led us to believe that we should pass that on to a special prosecutor, and obviously the court agreed that was appropriate. But I just want to say this, you know, that we've demonstrated over and over and over that if a police officer crosses the line, commits a crime, we're going to hold him accountable. It started with, obviously, the Officer Bassard case, which we inherited, but at this point, as they sit here today, we have prosecuted 72 police officer criminal cases.
Say it again.
72.
72.
And that's anything from minor offenses such as alcohol-related all the way up to very, very
72. I think that's important, because I think sometimes in our community, because it doesn't get the media hype or You know, it's not like the what was the gentleman's name who was the reckless driving?
Officer Bassard.
Bassard, that was Bassard. Okay,
Right.
so it doesn't get the high profile. We don't always know about some of these other prosecutorial cases that are going on, and maybe we should. I don't know if we should or maybe we shouldn't. I don't know how transparent we need to be, but all of that stuff is kind of public knowledge anyway, right?
Right.
You can find it. You can get it.
Can I take a moment and just give you an example of exactly what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Is that a few years ago, an African American arrestee at the arrestee prosecutor, Harry Hooks, was assaulted by a white deputy, at the arrestee processing center. When it occurred, there was a lot of publicity about the fact that it occurred, and a lot of public outcry about it, understandably. Well, first of all, Sheriff Layton fired the deputy. Deputy Carrico was his name.
Okay.
We filed charge against him. I personally tried the case because we wanted to send the message that this is unacceptable. So by the time it goes to trial and we convict him on all charges, they got virtually no coverage at all.
Right.
So what the message is left in the public's mind is white deputy assaults handcuffed African American arrestee. But you know, we took it to the mat as we should. And
Absolutely.
so, and the other thing I would note about the 72 cases is every single one of those cases that's been prosecuted as a crime is a result of an investigation by the police agency itself.
Okay.
And you're exactly right. I mean, the public, the press has the attention span of a gnat, and so so the public never gets the opportunity to know that these things are occurring.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to slide closer to me.
I can do that.
All right. And Delano, I'm going to ask you to slide in. Our guest from Lake County has shown up, and he's brought special guests with him.
Sure
So you guys are going to share this mic. The mic is pretty good. Come on over, some more smoky food. There we go. We family in here.
Okay.
This that Democratic love up in here. First of all, introduce yourself. This is y'all. I try to get guests from all over the state. All over the state. He drove all the way down from the region. Y'all give it up for my second guest who's running in House District 11, Delano Scaife. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes.
All right, sir. Say hello to the people.
How you guys doing?
So tell the people who you are and where you come from, sir.
I'm Delano Scaife. I'm the Democratic candidate for House District 11. I live in Couse now, but I've been living in District 11 for over 10 years now.
Yep, you're good. They can hear you. Yep.
Yeah. And this is my daughter, Victoria.
Hi, Miss Victoria. Well, see, she is definitely the youngest guest we've had.
Okay.
I heard her in the car when you were driving down. I'm like, oh, we got a special guest
Oh,
today.
yeah.
So tell the people, did you grow up in Northwest Indiana?
No, I'm originally from Hyde Park in Chicago.
Okay.
And I moved out to Indiana in 2006.
Okay.
So I went to Lake Central for my senior year, graduated, went to VU, got expensive, went to Purdue Cal, graduated there, and I just got my master's at DePaul.
Well,
in
congratulations. Congratulations. So, were you always interested in politics?
Oh yeah, since I was 8 years old.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So is this your first time working on a campaign, or?
Well, this is my first time running, but before I used to work on different campaigns about 2 to 4 years ago.
Okay.
I actually was interested in running for local office, and I went to the chairman for Lake County Democrats, it was John Bunches at the time.
Okay.
So he was telling me that I should kind of wait a little bit, but to join the Lake County Young Dems to see the background of how things are ran and stuff like that. So I joined the Lake County Young Dems. Within like a year, I was vice chairman, then chairman interim, until it got passed over a year ago.
So you just came up through the ranks that way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So a lot of people, I was saying, okay, I got Delano Scaife coming on, and they were like, who?
Yeah, I'm a new face.
And that's the purpose of Turn Left, right? Because we want to make sure that you get supporters and that you get, volunteers to help you knock on doors and you raise some money, because we got to flip seats. We got to flip seats all over the state. Before we go into your campaign, I want to jump back on to the prosecutor. So he brought a list. One of the things things that Terry Curry brought to me was, he was like, Dana, we've got all of these programs that we are working on, and I want to talk about them. So I'm going to give you an opportunity first to explain, how did you come up with some of these things? I've browsed through them. What was the motivating factor in some of these initiatives?
Well, first of all, what prompted us to put together the list, as you said, was the fact that at some point we realized that most people are not aware that we have these alternative programs. I'm not joking when I say that we've been in town halls and things where people have yelled at me and said, all you care about is locking people up, and you should think about doing this, this, and this. And my response is, well, we do this, this, and this. But what we don't do is a very good job of letting people know.
Communicating that
So
right.
we just have a number of programs that are intended to be alternative ways to get people out of the criminal justice system.
Okay.
And a lot of the programs are, they go from traditional diversion programs, such as if you picked up a shoplift and you have no significant prior criminal history, then we'll enter a diversion agreement. You then comply with the terms of diversion, and your case is dismissed. But a number of the programs are intended to find alternative ways to get individuals out of the criminal justice system with substance abuse problems and or mental health issues, because those two things just permeate the criminal justice system. And so the programs we have here that we brought in are a combination that literally represent a few thousand people each year that are diverted out of the criminal justice system, and hopefully then directed in a manner that is effective to get them addressing the issues that have led them into criminal conduct. From our point of view, first and foremost, it's the right thing to do as a community.
Absolutely.
And secondly, there's a secondary benefit, and that is that for everyone who comes into the criminal justice system, we're tapping into limited resources, so that it's going to involve the resources first of the police department, the prosecutor's office, the public defender's office, the courts, probation, and so we all have limited resources. So let's deal with individuals that we can get out of the system, let them address their issues, and then we can use our limited resources to take on the more serious issues that we have, and problems that we have.
Delana, we already know in our community, we talk about the criminal justice system, mass incarceration, and how disproportionate it is in our community that we get locked up more than anybody else. Tell me your take on our criminal justice system and some of the reforms that you would like to see. I know you haven't had a chance to go through this list, and I don't expect that. But just give me
she's got
it now. Give us some thoughts on where you stand on criminal justice.
Well, I work at Lake County Jail, so.
Okay, yeah. I kind of knew that. Walked you into that one.
So, from years from working there, I've seen that it's a lot of people that, are repeat offenders, and basically, their main drive to doing what they do is a means of survival. So, by that being said, there's certain things that their local government has restricted, like certain opportunities, to the point where they don't have different alternatives to go to or different programs that they might be aware about, so they turn to crime.
Okay.
And they do it over and over to the point where it becomes an addiction. So you could give them opportunities, but since they've been so long in having this habit, that is going to take additional programs to kind of wean them off that addiction, wean them off of that type of behavior, and become a behavioral problem.
Okay. So just looking at, for example, when I was reading down through the list, they have a veterans court, a behavioral health court. Can you tell us how some of these programs work? I'll give you that.
Yeah, the Veterans Court is essentially a diversion program for veterans with mental health issues or substance abuse. The Behavior Court, PAIR program, those are both to address individuals with mental health issues. And so, in terms of mental health issues, it's literally brings together mental health professionals, case managers, prosecutor's office, PD's office, to come up with a treatment plan, which obviously is left to the mental health professionals. And then if the individuals comply and they're doing well, then then their case is dismissed. That's the way we address that. Something that Delano said that I think feeds into something else we do is the second chance law, and obviously that was went into effect in 2013, and at the time, what that involves is expungement in criminal history, and just as Delano said, getting past that criminal history. Because if you have that criminal conviction, then that's going to be obstacle of employment, credit, housing, and so we were.
And it leads to that homelessness that Mike McClellan wants to create an ordinance for.
So Senator Taylor, in particular, and other legislators we worked with in terms of the original language, and among my fellow colleague prosecutors around the state, there were several who were just adamantly against it. Some were kind of lukewarm, and then there were some like us who supported it. And our belief is if someone had a theft conviction in 2002 and otherwise has not gotten in trouble since that time, why should that continue to be an albatross around their neck?
I agree.
That conviction. So we not only supported it, the forms that are on the Indiana Supreme Court website to file a petition, we drafted those. At this point, since 2013, we've had over 11,000 petitions filed in court, but that we then process, and that's something we're particularly proud of. Is being an advocate for people to get that second chance and to get past their criminal involvement.
Now, how many of y'all out there knew that the prosecutor's office was being an advocate to get people out of the criminal justice system? Well, at least the Democrat one is. Anyhow, I can speak of the other ones. hey, even Victoria know when I'm hitting it home. Yeah. So, Delano, I'm switching gears real quick because we're talking about legislation he brought up, Senator Taylor. Your goal is to get into the General Assembly. Talk about the 3 points on your campaign that you are stressing to your constituents when you're out knocking on doors.
So basically, I try to let them know that I want to make an effective government that works for everybody. The 3 main things in my district is basically the infrastructure, the water lines and stuff like that. Education.
And I'm glad you said that because some people only think infrastructure are roads and bridges.
No. Education, it's a lot of teachers are basically, like school districts are taking a hit because they're not getting the funding because the assembly is passing budgets, but some of the funds are going to the charter schools and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And the third thing is basically agriculture. Like the farmers are taking the burden, taking a hit, and losing no profit.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Now, see, I'm glad you mentioned our rural communities because I think sometimes there's a disconnect. We don't believe that there's a real connection between what's happening in the urban, suburban, and rural areas. And one of the things we try to stress on the show is, we have Democrats that come from all 92 counties coming on talking about why they're running. And one thing is for certain, the message is very clear. We want to help everyone regardless of where they reside. And the fact that you even, are saying, listen, in my district, it's this. and I appreciate that. What kind of feedback are you getting when you're out there?
Well, my district is kind of more Republican, so...
Oh, baby, I know all about them. I ran in 2016, I ran against Brian Bosman. So, I ran in... we didn't win. I know, everybody thought I was crazy too, right? We didn't win, so it you know what, that's where the work needs to be done. So don't even stress that.
So, my biggest issue is basically kind of like we shake their thinking because once they hear a Democrat, they're like, no, I'm a vote Republican till the day I die. It's not about the party, it's about the candidate. Because I can align more with that constituent than my opponent, but just because I'm a Democrat, they automatically just cut me off. But the ones that are open-minded and ask me about what I stand for, what I want to do, they're more susceptible to vote for me. And actually, a couple said, yeah, I'll vote for you because you took the time out to talk to me, ask me different issues and stuff like that. So I'm more of a practical person, and also working as a deputy sheriff, solving problems is just listening to what the person is basically saying, not talking, just listen. to listen to their issue and basically find a way to help them, in their situation. So.
And I admire Delano and others. He obviously is in a district that's going to be a huge challenge, just like your race. But I just feel like we have to take them on wherever it is. We got to take them on.
We got to fill the seats.
We're right. They're wrong, and we need to take them on.
We're left, they're right, but I get your point. I mean, and that's really the whole goal of it, right? Is making sure that there's balance. I'm not ever expecting like the entire state house to flip, right? I'm never expecting that. But if we can get some balance in our state house, where we can have real conversation, where they're not passing laws that you have to prosecute somebody that's for. I imagine there are probably a lot of things that you have to prosecute people for as a man. You go, but you have you're a ward of the court. You got to kind of do what you got to do.
That's our responsibility.
But I bet there's some things that you just go.
Well, and I don't know if it's exactly on point, but one of the things I know our deputies would tell you is every case is unique, and we don't have any sort of cookie cutter plea policies because every case is unique, every person is unique, and so our charge to our deputy prosecutors is do what you think's the right thing in any given case. Now, if it's a horrible crime, then that might mean that person's got to leave our community. But in other cases, it might mean a probation sentence with drug treatment. You just need to do the right thing.
I like the way you phrase that. He might need to leave our community. I've never heard it quite put like that.
Well,
I like that.
It is our unfortunate reality that there are folks who need to leave our community.
Absolutely. So how many deputy prosecutors do you have?
We have,
because I know you don't prosecute all the cases. So
we have 185 deputy prosecutors. We're actually the equivalent of the third largest law firm in the city. And why that's necessary is we resolve about 30,000 criminal cases a year. That's everything from public intoxication up to murder. In addition, we have responsibility for collecting child support on behalf of custodial parents who ask for us to do so. So we have 52,000 open child support files. We collect almost $100 million a year on behalf of custodial parents and their kids. Okay. And so thinking about those numbers is, so if you start with the 50,000 child support files, that's 104,000 people right there. 52,000 custodial parents, 52,000 non-custodial, and then kids on top of that. The 30,000 criminal cases, could involve nothing more than a defendant and a police officer, but most involve defendant, police officer, witnesses, victims, defendant's family, victims' families, and so, literally the work that we do in our office impacts hundreds of thousands of people in Indianapolis and Central Indiana every single year. Wow!
And you mentioned child support, and I have to make mention that I'm excited that Delano, is it Delano?
Yes.
Okay.
Delano.
I am super excited that you brought your daughter, because one of the things that we've been talking about, especially the Year of the Woman, is child care and what it and I've had so many women that I've reached out to say, will you run for office? And they're like, my kids are young, I'm not so sure. And sir, here you are. I'm just gonna say, ladies, y'all can't let the fellas outdo us now. Here you are with your baby girl with you tonight. Tell us some of the challenges you have as a parent, of a young, beautiful young daughter running for office. That people, I know Jim Banks, who's running for Congress against Courtney Tridge, he's like, I have a family. I can't just go to debates. I have a family. Unlike Courtney Tridge, I have a family. But here you are. You drove all the way down from the region with your daughter to come talk about your campaign. But talk more about some of the challenges and some of the things that you go through as a parent of a young daughter running a campaign.
For one, I don't have enough time. So, other than working full-time, my wife, she's a full-time nurse.
Okay.
So, other than campaigning, is basically attending to Victoria. She's pregnant, so...
Oh, you got another on the way, too. Okay.
So, Election Day is the due date.
Well, hopefully it'll be a double happy moment then.
Yeah, so basically,
and she will share a birthday with JD Ford.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically getting the house ready for the new baby. Thank God I graduated so there's more time to campaign. But whenever I have a chance, I just bring Victoria with me. You know, I don't want to burden my mom or try to find someone to watch her. So no better way to knock on doors with your own kids.
Baby, I didn't have any kids, but my best friends Chris and Noel have a beautiful little girl named Elon, and her best friend Precious. They would go out knocking doors for me, and I do believe I secured some extra votes when I had them babies knocking the door.
Mm-hmm.
It just does, it warms the heart because it humanizes you. And one of the things we try to do is humanize our politicians.
Yeah.
You know, I think people get so disgruntled about what's happening in politics, and because they forget that they're dealing with humans. They're dealing with fallible humans, people who make mistakes. I imagine, even though you've been in the law business, you know, since '78, you said?
Yes.
Since '78, you still have moments where you say, I think I need to seek counsel myself.
Quiet moments.
Yeah.
Quiet moments.
I mean, we all are still learning and growing. I just think that's exciting that you know, she's here because this is the first baby. Y'all step your game up. I mean, bring your kids. We'll make HB won't mind. It'll make me behave. It'll make me behave. So when you get there, okay, we talked about the 3 issues: infrastructure, education, and taking care of our rural communities and ag business. But when you get there, what is that one piece of legislation you want to write? What's that one thing that you want to see, you know, get called to a committee?
Basically, it's a lot. It's actually a lot. For education, I would like to expand more spending, but not just, you know, approve a large sum of money to the school district. But the approach I want to take is to draft effective legislation. I want to have a team of the school district members and the people from the community to come with different alternatives to see which one is best. And once everybody comes to a consensus, that's the legislation that I want to bring forward. Because it's just working in government and like working it could be working at McDonald's, how different changes are taken into consideration with the people that affects the most. And I hate that feeling, so that's another main reason why I wanted to run for this position, because I'm more of a practical person. Like, I don't want to basically create something that's going to jeopardize someone else.
Right.
Or create anything that could hurt my family in the future or jeopardize me, like years later.
You want the big picture, long term, not just short term games. I mean, I think about Tim Brown from Crawfordsville. You know, his legislation that took over, you know, Gary schools and Muncie schools. I don't think he ever went in and said, Gary parents, what do you want? Muncie parents, what do you want? I like that approach. You're not just saying, these are my ideas that I think will work, but I think I want to talk to the community and come up with legislation that they feel will work. Because, bottom line, that's who it affects. Tim Brown didn't do that. Tim Brown just, they passed that piece of legislation, and that, which I still can't understand how an entity who struggled with financing the public schools from a statewide standpoint, because you don't have a shortfall, but they're going to tell somebody else how to manage their budget. How does that, you know, y'all work that out in your brain. I ain't figured that out. But Tim Brown from Crawfordsville, he probably has never stepped foot in Gary. Probably never stepped foot in Gary. But he's wanting to take over the Gary, and it passed. And so there was no debate. And because of that supermajority, there's no way to like have real conversation. That's what we gotta flip.
And here's my soapbox.
Come on, get on it.
If they're serious about fixing education, then let's have a comprehensive commitment to early education.
Come on.
Quit playing around with pilot projects. Make the commitment now, and don't view it as a cost. It's an investment.
Absolutely.
Because you can incur the expense now to get everyone off on the same footing, or you can pay down the road when kids can't finish school, they can't get a job, they get involved in the criminal justice system.
And this thing that's showing up in front of you.
Yeah. So
And so that's
early education.
absolutely.
Education.
Well, and see, we changed our mindset for. I mean, and I know people laughed at me last week when I said, well, you know, public teachers, you know, sent men to the moon. And they looked at me like I was crazy, but it was like Neil Armstrong went to public school, I'm sure, you know, but he went to the moon. And how did our teachers become the scourge of our education system? Why? Because the philosophy was, we need to privatize this thing, you know, and we can't, with unions in place, with the teachers' unions, which is a very strong union, the teachers' unions are very strong, they were having difficulty. So what did? They demonized the teachers' union. The people who were charged with educating the future and preparing people to be leaders of the future were demonized. And now they're not being compensated. Y'all jump in at any time, because I get on my soapbox all the time, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for public schools, but also I went to Washington Township School.
Sure.
So I had an advantage. Those vouchers people aren't leaving North Central and taking voucher money. They're leaving Arlington. They're leaving Brockville. They're leaving, well, Brockville's gone now. You know, Northwood. They're leaving the IPS or the urban schools where mostly majority brown and black students are. You know.
Yeah, and we see that pattern all the time. You know, the kids get to second grade, they can't read, they've fallen behind their peers.
Yeah.
You know, and then they're frequently then are transitioning into the chin system. You know, by junior high age, then they're starting to appear in the criminal side of juvenile court. And you know, it's in my mind, it's in large part because they didn't get that start on the same footing as everyone else. Number one. Number two, then they don't have the opportunity to get that self-confidence, self-esteem by doing well in school or being involved in the arts, being involved in music, being involved in athletics, as opposed to getting that by being, you know, on the street.
I mean, I remember being in school. You probably, I might be a little older than you. You look a little young. You still making babies yet? You still young?
He's got hair.
He's got. I remember sports were free to play sports.
Sure.
I mean,
Sure.
I just had to get some cleats or some, you know, some. Sports were free. Now with everything being so expensive, how can we create those alternatives when the school systems are not offering them anymore? And that's a tough one. I don't expect you to have all the answers today.
Yeah.
If you did, we'll just go ahead and vote for you for governor. You know what I'm saying? Call it a day. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, I mean, you can, you know, add a tax, but taxing is not going to fix the problem.
No, can't throw money at it.
And probably one of the first best ways to go about it is getting like different local community, like organizations that specialize in certain things, like when it comes to art and music. Because I'm a big advocate for having art and music and theater and stuff like that, because there's a lot of kids that go to school and their passion is in the arts.
Mm-hmm.
They might not want to go to college to become an engineer if that's not their passion, that's not their calling. And to have funds to fund those type of programs is detrimental to society.
Absolutely.
And
but we're not creating well-rounded people anymore.
Right.
I mean, first of all, we already realize the I-STEP is not working. So, and that's all teachers are allowed to do now is to teach to the I-STEP. But we're not creating well-rounded human beings anymore.
No.
And I remember the first time I heard somebody say that they were dropping, we couldn't afford art anymore, or we couldn't afford gym. And I'm like, who came up with this? Somebody that was born at 40? Did they forget what it was like to be a kid?
Yeah, and you should never put money over a human life.
Hey, people love a profit, baby.
Yeah.
I say it all the time.
You should never put money or expense over human lives. And it's not about spending money, so they can play gym, but it's beneficial to teach them discipline. You don't know, they might not get exercise at home. They might not get nutritious food at home. So to say it's an extra expense, cut it out. They're missing the big picture.
Absolutely.
And
we're having a blast.
Yeah,
Miss Victoria is still in the show over here. I see you. Well, and the other thing, I forgot because Victoria started the show. You were going somewhere with you said nutrition, and it's not just about throwing money at it. 90% of our CEOs in our nation play team sports.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that, and that was one of the things for women wanting to play team sports. It teaches leadership skills, it teaches people how to work as a team. But all the major leaders in corporate America play team sports. So if you're taking that other avenue to develop well-rounded human beings away, that now you're creating another class of people.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is, as Delana was talking about that in terms of sports and arts and nutrition, and is thinking it takes a village.
It does.
Did someone have that phrase before?
It does. Oh my goodness.
It takes a village.
It does, but we have to be willing to fight for it. And I think that's one of the things that
we are the village.
Right. We are the village. We are the change, right? And that's why when I talk about what's going on in America, we can be mad, be all the mad you want to be. Sure, but use that energy to make positive change. Get involved. You don't have to be in politics, but be involved in something positive. If you have a list of programs, I'm sure there are days where somebody could come in and intern or be a volunteer. Reach out to the prosecutor's office. Delano, I know you got a campaign to run, so I know you need volunteers, and you're doing fundraising. Tell the people where they can find you. I want to make sure I get that in. How they can find you on social media, and then what fundraisers you got going on, and all that good stuff.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Skate for Indiana.
Okay.
That's
SCAE. IFE, right?
Number 4, Indiana.
Okay.
And you can also go to my website, www.skateforindiana.com.
Okay. Do you have any fundraisers coming up?
I have one actually on the 20th of October.
Okay.
So my idea was set up raising funds for me. I wanted to raise it for different organizations within the community.
Okay.
So I'm trying to do a countywide basketball game, Democrats versus Republicans.
Oh.
And all the funds from that will go to the organizations as charity. Open up the platform for people to come and meet their candidates and stuff.
Well, this is Indiana. If you're gonna do a charity event, it may as well be basketball. But you do still need funds for your campaign. So can people go to your website?
Yeah. I have a donate button on the very top right corner.
I think that first of all, you just blew my mind, because here you are in the middle of a very difficult campaign, and you still thinking about the community. That's what it's all about, people. Did you catch that? Did anybody else catch that? You in the middle. This was Delano's moment to shine and talk about how great you are. This was your Trumpian moment. You can just brag about how fantastic you are. And what you told me was, we're doing a fundraiser, but my fundraiser is going to help other organizations. That's the kind of leadership we need in our state house. That's what we need. Now, if we can get rid of Citizens United, man, can you imagine how powerful a candidate and an elected official like Delano could be with fresh views on how we do things? When you knocking doors against, and where can they meet you at? Because I know you out there doing that.
Well, actually, I have work this week, but starting on the 21st of October, I have a week of vacation from the 21st to the 28th. Yeah, 28th.
Okay.
So every day I'll be knocking on doors. So if you want to help me, just go to my website. You can click on the last page and just send me an email. Because I'm knocking doors in both Porter County for Couts, Hebron, Broom Grove, Malden, and Lake County is St. John, Cedar Lake, Lowell, Shelby, Snyder.
Okay. So now you know where to find a man. You know how you can help him. All right. Boss, you on the ballot too.
True.
Tell the people where they can find you.
www.terrycurry.com and Curry for Prosecutor on Facebook.
Okay, excellent.
So, and I would add, in terms of election, you obviously encouraging people to vote, which is appropriate. I would add that if you're not registered, you have until through next Tuesday.
Next
to
Tuesday,
get registered
that's
to
right.
vote in our next election.
That's right. You get registered to vote, and then the early voting starts there right the next day. And if you're in Marion County, applaud Mila Eldridge and the election board. And I know Kate Sweeney Bell was a part of that on the Democratic side. We have 6 additional early voting locations. Go to the clerk's website, the Marion County Clerk's website, or wherever county you live in, and find out where your early voting location is, and stay involved. Stay involved.
There's a question there, if I could address it. It says,
You can read that?
shouldn't those convicted felons have the right to vote restored in Indiana. A felon can vote in Indiana. The only person who cannot vote related to criminal justice is if you're incarcerated.
Right.
If you're currently incarcerated, you cannot vote. But no matter what sort of criminal history you have, if you're not in jail, you have the right to vote in Indiana. That came up frequently in 2008 during the Obama campaign.
And you know what? I want to go back to that because that's a misconception that has been drummed into the head, especially in the African American community, since we were locked up at a much higher clip. That is a misconception. That's a lie they keep telling people that we can't vote. Once you are done with your time, once you have paid your price to society, you are eligible to vote. All you have to do is register. Don't listen. Do not let, now you got me hyped up. Don't allow anyone to make you feel like you should be scared to register to vote because you have a felony. Because that's what happens. I just finished reading. I was slow in the uptake because I didn't have time to get to it. But I just finished reading the new Jim Crow, and most of what she was talking about, I already knew. It was just confirmation of my thought process anyway. But one of the things that we don't talk about enough is the self-esteem portion, in which she spent quite a bit of time in her book talking about how the stigmatization of being a felon and how that makes people draw in, and they're no longer wanting to even talk about that or draw extra attention to themselves by doing anything, registering to vote, getting a driver, whatever it is, because they don't feel worthy. Once you have served your time, you are eligible to vote. Go ahead.
And not only that, I mean, because it ties back to exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, if you have that conviction, but you meet the requirements, file a petition to expunge it, and then it's sealed, and you don't have to declare to the world, I'm a felon. You don't have to put it on your employment application. You don't have to put it on your housing application.
And is there? I'm assuming there's like a fee to do the expungement.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure it can be waived for instance. Okay,
so here we go. Not only
it's a minimal fee.
Once you've done and you met all your requirements, you can go vote. You have a prosecutor who is telling you 18 ways from Sunday how you can remove yourself from the criminal justice system. These things, listen, don't take for granted that we have a Democratic prosecutor. Do not take that for granted. Do not take for granted 1 second, because if he loses this race, you have no idea who's coming up behind him. You have no idea what his plan is going to be. And just like when we stayed home and we got the orange one, and now we got Kavanaugh. Now we got all these, we got more tax breaks coming and more gutting of Medicare, Medicaid. We got all of these things because 33% of our nation believe in this guy. 33%. Think about that. That means 67% of us know better. 67 is more, last time I checked, than 33%. So I'm just saying, if we get up and do what we're supposed to do, and that's go to the polls, take somebody with you. Don't go alone. And while we're on that, before we go, because I only have a few more minutes, my guy, I usually, there's some really great activists around the state. They're doing wonderful stuff. But I want to give a shout out to Tony Davis. Tony Davis is a precinct committee person out in Pike Township. He is working diligently to even get people to the polls. He is recruiting drivers. He is recruiting locations for people to be picked up. He is recruiting everything that and taking donations. He even has a budget. He has a budget on how much he thinks he will need, because he's not asking people to do things for free. He's actually willing to pay them. He is actually willing to pay people to help get people to the polls. So the work comes in when people like Tony Davis are out there putting in the work. Now, he can't do everything. He can't be organizing the driving mechanism and then also trying to hold classes on civic engagement and also be a precinct committee person. It takes all of us, the village. We talked about it. So you guys find Tony Davis. He is a friend of mine on Facebook, but he also has yard signs to remind people that we're voting on November 6th. And these things are so important. Being a volunteer, committing yourself to a cause. I mean, you brought your baby down. You know what I'm saying? I know she's a sweetheart, and she's adorable. Those are the kind of things, people being committed. A prosecutor coming on a radio show saying, hey, whatever you bring at me, Dana Black, I'll answer it. Let's sit down and talk about it, but I want to make sure that I talk about the positive things that we are doing. We have a prosecutor that's doing that. So, get any final thoughts? You know, this I know anything you want to talk about. I know we got the Kavanaugh stuff. I don't usually spend too much time listening to that noise. Go ahead.
My final thoughts is, please vote me in.
I love it.
Yeah, it's just, this state needs so much when it comes to legislation and like just bringing the community together as one to come up with solutions, and it could be done. It's just people are discouraged and they don't believe that, you know, something positive could come or any situation or problem could be fixed. But if you just stay positive and work towards it, you'll make the change.
She got a career. She found a microphone. Yeah, you found a microphone, didn't you? You found that microphone, and that's it.
Yeah. And I just respect Delano, you know, for stepping up. It is not an easy thing. You did it to put yourself out there, and you get subjected to a lot of things that you really don't want to happen to you, but I respect you for doing it, and for you.
My philosophy was, what was they gonna say to me at 45, 46? They didn't say I was 14.
Yeah, the past. I'm over 60, so you know at that point.
You know what I'm saying? It's like whatever. I mean, because it's not about me.
Yeah,
It's not. It's like I said. This man has an opportunity to say, "Hey, donate to me," but he's like, "Well, we're having a charity event."
Yeah.
It's not when you are doing it for the community and you're trying to improve the lives of the people around you. Your light is going to shine. Welcome. Now I'm gonna tell you what happens after you get done with this first race. So we've been talking about drug intervention and things like that, but they don't have like a political intervention. You are now going to be hooked. My wife is always like, you do know where you live, don't you? But this thing, once you get that bug and your goal is to help people, ain't no stopping you. So welcome aboard. Now everybody knows who Delano Scape is. We already know who you are, boss man. You've been doing your thing for a long time. Thank you so much, guys, for coming down. You're around the corner. Thank you for driving down. Miss Victoria, you were awesome.
Yeah.
You were absolutely awesome. You know,
Beautiful.
Indiana's own Dana Black Turn Left. We are doing this every week. And we're getting close to the countdown. I got a special show for the day after the Thursday after election. Two of my homegirls, Rima Shahid, I know y'all love her, and a newcomer, Amanda Lumpkin. We're going to come back in here on the Thursday after the election, and we're going to break it down. Don't forget, next week, October 13th, tune in from 1 to 4, a special edition of Turn Left at the Latino Expo, 1 to 4. Vanessa, we gonna hype it, baby. We gonna hype up the Latino Expo. All right, y'all. Indiana's on Dana Black, Turn Left, Radio Next. I love y'all. Peace.